What's next if the EU is serious about avoiding delays then to this important funding?
Right, Anna. And look, there was no deal. I guess the expectation was that we would not get to a quick deal purely because this clash, and just for context, this is Poland and Hungary arguing the criteria over rule of law and the funding that you would need to get from European institutions is unfair, and that criteria is unfair on their governments. But of course, this is a clash that is very political. It's very much about ideology. It's not so much about the economics or the fiscal side, and perhaps this is why it's almost so difficult to bridge those differences. If you look at the very liberal progressive democracies in Europe, someone like Mark Rutte, when he has to get on the table and speak to Viktor Orban, this is toxic for him. At the same token, for Viktor Orban, this is what he says or claims to be fighting, this elite technocrat Brussels bubble that he does not like. But fundamentally, what I would stress is that the European Union does insist that basic freedoms, courts that are independent, and that protection to the opposition is fundamentally in the European Union nonetheless. What I would stress is that you do hear countries like Italy and Spain insist that this recovery fund needs to be operational, that the European budget needs to be cleared quickly, and that's precisely the message that the Spanish Finance Minister Nadia Calviño told me yesterday when we spoke at a forum by Bloomberg. Let's take a look.
I hope there's no delay. The German presidency is very strongly committed to finalizing these negotiations as soon as possible. The European Parliament, I know, is also very much engaged so that we can reach a solution. And so the target date of 1st of January should continue to be our target date. Of course, we are going to fully use the 140 billion. But the rules are so that the grant part has to be committed by 2023. The grant part amounts to 72 billion. And therefore, we are very interested in making sure that we commit this amount in the first 3 years so that we do not lose a euro from the grant part.
And that's the Spanish Finance Minister Nadia Calviño speaking to us on a Bloomberg forum yesterday. And I would say it's interesting that now the Spanish are saying they want to get the full package, both the loans and credit, 150 billion euros. And Anna, just very quickly to answer your question, when does this get solved? Well, the expectation, the hope here is that it will in December. There's a meeting that is already scheduled to take place in person here. The idea is that you move close to a deadline, that both Poland and Hungary are interested in the money too, and that will somehow get minds focused on this, but again, it's unclear, and it's probably going to take a few more weeks.
That meeting in December is looking busy, isn't it, in terms of the agenda? There's some clarity this morning then, Maria, on the vaccines in Europe. When does Europe start distribution then?
Right, and that was, I would say, the only good piece of news that came out from the summit yesterday. Von der Leyen saying that the European Union could be ready to get vaccines and on a mass scale and to get to distribute them in the second half of December. That is when she is expecting that the European Medicines Agency will give the green light to the Pfizer vaccine. So you could get Europeans and European countries get their hands on those vaccines by the end of the year. Now, this does feed into reports that we had seen earlier this week that the Germans are interested in getting up and running vaccination centers in the second half of December. And let's also factor here that the European Union has already, in fact, signed a contract with Pfizer and BioNTech for 400 million doses. They could get an additional 100 million on that same contract. So it does seem that in terms of those deadlines and the timeline, perhaps going forward, we do have much more clarity now from the European Union than a week ago.
Right. And let's talk about Brexit. Do we have any more clarity on that this morning, Maria?
Well, not really, other than, Anna, the three sticking points, which have been very well documented and that we all know, starting with fish, level playing field, and the governance, have not been solved. And that is just some lines that we are getting from Michel Barnier, who's not attending in person a briefing because, as you know, a member of his team was tested positive for coronavirus. That's also delayed some of the talks that were pending. But given the tone that is coming out of this briefing, not a lot has changed, despite the positive momentum that was going into this. And I would also note, Anna, very quickly, that Emmanuel Macron and the Belgian Prime Minister yesterday, they both told the EU 27 they all need to prep for a no deal. It's wrong to assume that there will be a deal. Prepare for a potential no deal Brexit by the end of the year. No transition, no trade talks, no full trade deal. So that was a message from Emmanuel Macron. Perhaps no surprise, but he insisted on that point.